Can I get a smaller or larger plume or stream out of my CO2 cannons? Or in general, can I alter the stream that comes out? Well, the question for the second one, we have a video just on that if you already have equipment. If you don't and you want a smaller stream or you want a bigger stream, yes, we offer specialty services in that. Does that mean it costs more? Not for the specialty services, but perhaps for the product. Why? Bigger orifice and valve, which the valve inside, this is technical, you have an orifice, which is the smallest part of the entire flow, which is where the valve opens and closes basically. Bigger orifice means bigger amount of CO2, larger amount of CO2 that flows through it, ultimately a bigger stream, but you gotta back up. Just because you have a bigger orifice, remember that situation or the old adage, they say don't be the bottleneck in the situation? Well, if you have from tank where your bulk CO2 is inside a tank, not a bulk tank, just a tank, all the way out, whatever the thinnest part of that entire system is going to be the bottleneck. Your CO2 fitting is technically the bottleneck because the CO2 fitting, if I'm correct, I think it's 3.5 millimeters, is only the amount of space that the CO2 can get through. So if you have a 10 millimeter valve over here, 3.5 millimeter CO2 fitting, yes, the CO2 expands, but you're getting some of that expansion inside the hose. You're not getting the best result out of the end. Don't get me wrong, you're gonna get a result whether you go with a 6 millimeter orifice or a 10, but sometimes, depending on temperature and humidity and where you're using this at, for the most part, it's not gonna be that noticeable, okay? The only time that it'll be definitely noticeable is if you have, let's say, a 2 millimeter valve or a 3 millimeter valve versus a 10 millimeter valve, okay? Now that's with one fitting. If you have a splitter or a combiner, they call them splitters, we call them splitters, multiple tanks into one hose that goes into these valves, yes, the different orifice valve is going to give you a different output. We can also amend the output on the nozzle part of it. Generally, you want to do it at the valve. But I say this because now if you have 3 tanks, 3, 6, 9, and then 3 5s, remember 3.5, 5, 10, 15, another 1.5, so 9, 10.5 millimeters. And this is general math of collective amounts of space of CO2 coming in. Very, very simple math here. Then you have a 10 millimeter valve, you're maximizing the use out of the entire valve. So you're able to get the most out of it. If you ended up putting a 3 millimeter valve on that, you're gonna dampen that amount of CO2 down that flows out. So yes, you're regulating it, you're gonna get a smaller amount coming out. So we offer 1 millimeter, 2 millimeter, 3, 4, 5, all the way up to like 30 millimeter, 50 millimeter valves. Now, again, why would you have a 50 millimeter if you only got 3.5 over here? It doesn't make sense, but you get the point here. The goal is to understand the entire method here and way of calculating this so you better understand your system, you can get the most out of it. Typically what people do is they end up taking multiple valves and they put multiple valves together. Some of our products, we have multiple valves together and those multiple valves shoot out multiple streams of CO2 with multiple tanks. But guess what? Actually, with one 10 millimeter valve and 3 tanks on one line, 2 of those could technically equal, given temperature, humidity, and relevance to where you're at. I'm not saying this all the time, but technically 2 of those could equal the same as if you had 7 millimeter, which is the majority of the other jets out there, 7 millimeter valves with 1 tank on each one. So you get the point here. Sometimes more isn't more. Sometimes less with a larger orifice is more. I know that's a lot of information, but I'm just dumping my information out so that you guys can understand this. And ultimately you could say, wow, these guys know what they're talking about. Maybe I should consult with them and ask them some questions about mine. Okay, shameless plug, had to do it. If you have any questions, put those in the comments below. Obviously, like and subscribe if you want more of this content. We're here to help you, and we have valves for different uses. A lot of our stuff we don't put online because we have NDAs that we have to follow, and of course, we need to make sure that we respect those, but we do a lot of special projects, a lot of custom stuff, and we have a lot of CO2 valves. That's what we do. So thank you for watching. This is CryoFX. We'll see you on the next one.